Hello YouTube. This one's going to take a little bit of explaining. There's a few different mechanics at play here, all coming together to help improve the stack separation sorter that was shared by Methods a couple months ago. That was based on a mechanic that Boyenn found to help separate entities based on a mob sorter I think that they had found somewhere on Reddit. I'll link the video from Methods, and I'll link Boyenn's channel and some of the history behind stack separation sorting. So let's walk through a couple of different mechanics that help make this stack separation sorter a little bit more versatile. Okay, first up is a fast resetting comparator update detector that uses dust redirection to make this thing operate pretty quickly. So I think anyone who's seen my channel before has probably seen me use CUDs in a few different designs. We don't need any tileability here, so we can work in a two wide space, and this thing will help us with some of the mechanics for stack separation. But as long as you provide some form of update to this comparator, then it'll reset the power to itself continuously. So you can see how quickly it actually reacts to the updates here. And what's happening is that upon losing power, it's going to retract the piston, which will change the shape of this dust to repower this. As the piston closes, it provides another update to the comparator to allow it to power back on. Once it extends again, it changes the shape, and they're resetting the CUD so it can start the cycle over again. So this is one of the primary components in the updated stack separation sorter. The one variation that we will actually make use of here is something that I found a long while back, but never really had any use for it whatsoever. And it's actually using a detector rail as an item entity detector. So you know that if you put a container in front of the CUD, as long as something gets updated to that container, well, it's not going to work for a hopper because it's actually locked here, but you can open this up, put an item in, and it'll update the CUD. You don't even need to put an item in. You can click in the slot and it'll update it. So you can click in any one of these slots and the CUD gets updated. The cool thing with the detector rail is that it's providing an update to the comparator whenever there's an entity on top of it or in the space above it. So you'll see if I throw a rail over it, it triggers the CUD and it resets itself automatically if something gets stuck up there. This will detect players and mobs and carts and anything that passes over it. We're using this as part of the system instead of a pressure plate because a pressure plate runs on, at the very least, a 10 game tick cycle. Now, we're not going to get away without using pressure plates at all because we will need it for the stack separating mechanic, but this allows us to self-trigger the whole system by using this item entity detection and the CUD. So that's kind of the basis of this whole improvement. You'll see here that this pressure plate and this trap door, once they're triggered at the same time, this is what's separating the entities. So it happens in the same game tick that the oldest item entity will be allowed to pass through, while the others, any others, will be stopped by the trapdoor as it triggers. And you can see that here. I won't actually cycle this one, so let's just stop it. But if I put in multiple different items, this should let the redstone block that I dropped first pass through, while the others will get stuck at the door. And there it goes. And that's because I missed the alignment. That should never pop off like that. But that's the mechanic here that is at play. So let's trash this real quick. I will put my piston back. And this is how it's going to work. So we'll get them aligned into this corner, and I'll do 9. I'll just do everything in my hotbar here. We've got 9 items, and let's go through a bit of a tick freeze. So we'll freeze, and we'll take a couple steps here through, and watch how this thing works. So we should have items dropping down here soon. There we go. About to activate the detector rail. There it is. So once that gets activated, it's losing power to the CUD. We're retracting the piston, which has the slime block on it to bounce the items forward over that pressure plate. And now in the next tick, it should hit the pressure plate and let the first item out, which I think was the smooth stone slab. So there we are stopped. Oh, and the first one was actually my red concrete block, or my yellow concrete block. So now that one's passed through. The next sequence of events here is going to be pushing the items back up so that they can be pushed by the slime block that is attached to this piston. You won't see it here because of my shaders, but if I take them off, you'll see that the block is present. So let's step through the next couple. Piston pushing up, bouncing them back over, and you'll see some other items that were on top of the slime block before falling at the same time, and we're ready to start the next cycle. So the next oldest item will get stopped here at the trapdoor, and that one is the smooth stone slab. And again, we'll keep going through. Up, back, trigger, and through. This runs on an 11 game tick cycle. So if we count it through from when the trapdoor activates, so it's activated now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Re-triggered. This is probably as fast as it's going to get with this type of method. Because the pressure plate runs on a 10 game tick cycle, or 10 game tick cooldown, I should say, it needs to be able to have that reset time. And in this setup, it's only 1 game tick. I think that's as quick as this whole system is going to get, unless someone can find another way to separate these item types. Let's unfreeze it. There, you'll see that it separates them all. So, how does this become useful? Well, let's scale it up a bit and take a look at how this works with some actual sorting capabilities attached to it. A quick intermission before we continue with the stack separation sorter. I wanted to congratulate Walter, Kreko, Glotz, and MathMill for finding Baby Yoda in the world download of the diagonal item sorter. Congrats, guys. I think I'm going to take a bit of a pause from Easter eggs for the next little while as I focus on a few other things, but I did want to thank these folks for spending the time to take a look and go through the whole thing. So again, thank you all. Okay, so I've scaled up to include a couple different sorting slices here, which are 2-wide tileable. I've built in a dropper system to mimic that of a farm's output. The powdered snow is to kill any item momentum after it's been dropped out, so we're not landing all over the place. I've got a copy of the dropper here. This command block is just if we wanted to have complete random input into this setup, but we won't use it for now. I'll include it in the world download if anyone's interested in it. We're going to use the same self-activating detection here for the CUD and item entity detector. We're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4 item alignments, so we should be perfectly aligned the whole way through, and there is no water in this setup. So as long as you can filter, say, from a gold farm into this location, then you are good to go. But let's watch this thing in action. So we're spitting items out randomly. We should get some batching that occurs just naturally as the items are moving together. And we should see the items dropping into each of their corresponding slices. So there is no item waste in this either. So the item that gets pulled into these hoppers gets recycled out through these droppers and fired back out into that stream. So we should end up with 3 stacks of yellow concrete, 3 stacks of note blocks, 2 of redstone dust, and 1 of the observers in this chest here. So let's do a bit of a tick warp. 2 22,000. That shouldn't take us too long to complete. We've already completed, and let's kill that. So, let's see if this worked. 3 of yellow concrete, 2 of redstone dust, 3 of our note blocks, and 1 of our observers. So that's it. This uses a similar concept to stop the items as they pass through. If one item can go into the hopper, these are cut to signal strength 15. So as long as we're outputting 15, it'll activate, and then it should instantly deactivate this fence gate, pausing the item here, and then getting pushed over by the piston on the other side. It's then processed through these 2 droppers, shot out into the powdered snow to kill momentum, and dropped below. So you could have, a few more slices here. You'll get however much momentum off of that first bounce, but typically your farm item types in the nether aren't producing that many different item types. So a few slices along the way is probably good. You can sort out what you want to keep, and then you could even just throw everything else into lava that you don't want, and just put your rotten flesh right into the lava towards the end. But that's it. I'm pretty proud of this one. There's a few obscure mechanics at play here, and I'm hoping this might actually help people with some of their farm outputs and maybe better organizing the outputs of those farms. I think the plan is that Glotz, who has helped out with the development of this stack separating sorter, is going to do a video that includes it on his gold farm. So stay tuned. I'll include the link for that as it comes up. Thanks to Boyenn for helping with the sorters at the side and the dropper powdered snow setup. And that's it for today. Thanks again, YouTube. Have a great one.